welcome to today's meeting for the West End SELPA for April 28th. It is 9:30, so we will begin the meeting. First, we have administrative items. If I could have a motion to accept the agenda for April 28th.
So
Moved by Wayne.
Second.
Second, James. All in favor? Opposed? So the agenda has been adopted. Before we get to the self-administrative report, we do have a card for A2, item A2, and that's Mr. Palmer, David Palmer.
You want a mic, Dave?
Is it possible to share after?
Before the item.
Okay, well, I attended the financial committee meeting, so I'm anticipating she'll report the same things, so I will recollect what it is she shared there. One of the things she was sharing was the restructuring and how there was a loss of jobs, there was a decrease in the services that are being provided, and I just wanted to remind everyone that this is of the WESELPA's own doing, that they chose to kick out, well, y'all did, y'all voted on it to kick out OMSD, knowing that you had a plan to bring Fontana into the circle, but that didn't happen, and so now you're stuck with the situation that you have, where you have to lay people off, you have to reduce the services that are being provided. Unfortunately, not enough staffing was reduced, just services were reduced. Thanks to Superintendent Kelly acknowledging that really what's happened here is amounts to cuts to kids and not really efficient cuts, staffing to accommodate and adjust to the decrease in services. So I just wanted to share that there was a different, it's being spun in a different way, and it's of the WESELPA's own doing. I've seen this pattern in coming here that time after time the districts are pulling services from the WESELPA. You're doing them yourselves. I don't understand why we're in support of AB 312 to save the SELPAs when you guys are taking away services time and time again from the SELPAs. So I'm kind of confused. And at this point, really, the SELPA just amounts to a litigation pool, a litigation fund. That's about the only service that's left that they're really providing that amounts to anything. So I would just encourage you not to support AB 312, and let's continue to do this business yourselves. I believe it's done more efficiently. I know from my own experience with my two children and across 3 different districts here, I've had much better positive results from working with my districts. Even when I've had conflict with those districts, I've had better results for my students in working directly with each of you than it has been working with the SELPA. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Palmer. We'll move into item A2, SELPA Administrative Report.
Mr. Alejandre, I also had a card to speak, but I put all my items on one card to preserve paper.
Okay, because I believe I do have a card here for D2, D5, E1, E4, E10. If there wasn't an A2.
Okay, may I speak on A2? Thank you. First, let me start out by saying, not to make comparisons, but when Mr. Elphick was running the meetings, he was allowing testimony after.
I turned it off.
Oh, okay. He was allowing testimony after we heard the item. I mean, we have not heard the administrator's report. We have not seen the materials. According to the Brown Act, if the committee is provided copies of the materials, the public should have copies as well. We don't have the materials that are going to be presented, so it's very hard for the public to speak to an item that we have not seen, except if it's a deliberate effort by the agency to curtail the public's participation, which I think is what's going on here. Because how could we possibly testify to the item when we haven't even heard testimony? So I encourage you to allow the presentation of the item before testimony. But if you do not allow it, I'll go ahead and speak as best I can on an item that I haven't seen. But I would ask the committee to consider that. And that's the past practice that we have been following for the past few meetings with Mr. Elphick.
I've always run the meetings where we take the cards before the item. There's always public comment, so people would have had the opportunity to hear the report and then speak to public comment, so there's always that opportunity for the public.
Okay. I'll go ahead and comment on item A2. As Dave mentioned, AB 312 O'Donnell is asking for more money under the guise that somehow giving more money to the SELPA will translate into better services for preschool children with disabilities. But if you look at the SELPA priorities, area number 3, indicators 5 and 6, it says the West End SELPA districts do not meet the CDE targets for preschoolers, indicator number 5, which is least restrictive environment. So why dump more money into a failing system? I mean, this is really outrageous that the districts, and I'm sure that West End SELPA will then point to the districts and say, you know, that's a district problem, and the West End SELPA can't do anything about it. But this is precisely the problem of dumping more money into an agency that's not providing the service, and as Dave mentioned, it's turned into a litigation pool. I also question the protocol here, because since when did SELPA take a legislative position on AB 312? I just saw it later on the agenda today, but the West End SELPA is currently listed as one of the supporting organizations for AB 312. So I believe Susan has abused her discretion. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll move into item A2, Self-Administrator's Report.
Good morning. You have a number of handouts that I'll refer to as we're going through my report this morning. First of all, I want to acknowledge a really wonderful event that we had Tuesday night, and I'd like to thank James Moore and Sharon Nault and the Altamont School District for hosting this event again. You can see there Jane and Nault, Sharon's daughter, performed for us. Ted was there and gave every student a medal. I can't hear you. You can't hear me? Is this better? Yes. Okay. All right. We can move on to the next slide. So these are just some of the students that were there, and our theme was, as SELPA theme has been all year long, celebrate what's right with the world. We had students about 163 students who submitted artwork, who submitted essays, poems. We had some poetry read, we had some live performances. We had a student who submitted a video that she had made. And as you can see, Sean Judson, James Moore, and Ted were there to acknowledge every single child. And we had parents who submitted the names of teachers that they wanted to honor. So these are actually the directors of special ed, the superintendents, our master of ceremonies, and our CAC members that were there that night. This is the student that did the video. It was lovely. These are the teachers that were nominated and then recognized that evening. This young man read an essay that he had written about how architecture was what we should celebrate that was right with the world due to technology. Just wanted to bring you up to date on our priorities for the year, and you have those in your packet. As you can see, we met or surpassed every single goal that we had set for ourselves working with the districts this year. Number 4, results-driven accountability, we are still working on because the CDE is still working on it, but they will have your targets and how you did in your annual performance report. Those have not come out. For some reason, there's a delay at Sacramento, so hopefully we'll see those in a few weeks. In your packet, you have our goals for next year, and as we've gone around on our spring visits, we've shared these with each district. In September, we anticipate we'll move to the new facility, so We will be already in the midst of trainings and IEPs, and we will try to make that move as smoothly as we can. Downsizing of the WESELPA next year as everything continues to shake out. We will work with anything that comes up. I did hold a planning meeting with the program specialists and behavior specialists this past week. We have program specialists assigned to districts. We will have one behavior specialist. She'll be serving all 9 districts. We developed the plans for staff development that I'll share here in a minute. Indicators 5 and 6, least restrictive environment. We will continue the work group that will look at how can we provide more inclusive opportunities, including training gen ed teachers on how to provide accommodation strategies and to work with all teachers on access to the court, etc. Indicator 17, continuing that results-driven accountability. We are going to have a work group that will work on access to Common Core and progress monitoring and all the rest. ADR, we are going to continue our parent strand, and we're going to be bringing Carlo Rossi and Greg Abel in, who are just experts in this field. Carlo Rossi is a parent facilitator in the Sonoma County. We are thinking at this point, we are going to invite all parents who have been in Royal's office this year to come be part of that facilitated conversation and see how we can really respond to what we're seeing going on and hear from the parents and work together in the future to make things even better. Staff development, we have a plan for that for next year. CAC trainings will be aligned with the parent trainings. And then, as you know, it's kind of unique in California, we have a vocational team that puts over 400 kids to work every year while they're still in school. And we think that we are well positioned to be one of the 13 local partnership agreements that will be formed across California. And Jennifer is making a lot of headway in that, working with Regional Center, Department of Rehab, and lots of agencies in the area. We can go on here. Okay. As I mentioned, we've been out visiting in the districts, and we still need to go to Mount Baldy and Mountain View. And so I know we're going to Mount Baldy on May 11th, and it's been really helpful to hear from the districts. Feedback on our services and what they would like to see next year. The CAC had their art and writing contest this week, and next Wednesday, Sharon and I will be at Legislative Sharing Day in Sacramento, and I understand our new WESELPA OMSD is also taking a contingency of parents, so that would be great for them to have that opportunity too. On May 1, we will have the annual WESELPA celebration, and we thank Janet for hosting that. And we will be recognizing staff that each of the districts have submitted their names. A very special event. May 16th, in your handouts today, you have a flyer. Carlo Rossi is coming down to do our first meeting with parents, parents helping parents, and you can see all the details on the flyers. May 19th is our annual budget plan and annual services plan hearing, and it has worked very well the 5 years that I've been here for us to all convene at 9 o'clock for that and move immediately into the Superintendents Council, so that will be our last council meeting for the year. 8 of the districts have signed the local plans, so we're almost there. We can submit it to the state when we have the 9th. And then just a little update on our reorganization. For those staff that will not be with us moving forward, HR has nearly completed their notifications. So now we know who will be working here next year, and we can move forward with plans. We have determined the assignments of our program specialists and behavior specialists, like I said. And again, we want to thank Ted for that additional position. That's going to make all the difference for us next year. And staff development plans, our directors submitted their preferences for training, their priorities. We used those at our planning meeting. And So we have an array of trainings that we'll be providing. CPI, as you know, you all have staff that have to be recertified every 2 years. And we think that we have come up with something that is going to be beneficial to everybody. CPI has introduced a flex program. So you know how you have to send staff for 2 full days of training, and then they have to come every 2 years to repeat the training. They have implemented a program that your staff do the classroom part online, and it's $28 to $31 per person, depending on how many you sign up. So they take a test at the end of the online session. So I know one of our districts has already started using this very successfully. It saves you the cost of a sub for 1 day, and they are time-sheeting their teachers for 3 hours because that's what CPI says it should take. Then they come in the second day for the physical part of the training. So that way they're only out of the classroom 1 day, and with our reduction in staff, we will not be needing to train 2 full days for everybody too, so we can do all of the trainings that we'll need to do to get everybody up to date next year. So that's the direction we're moving in, and we'll be talking to the directors about it at the PAC meeting. InterSELPA transfers, I'm getting the transfer agreement forms from the districts, so we are finding out which students are continuing with OMSD next year, and I'm sending them on to Alana. And then today, we will be talking about the memorandum of understanding that we've developed between the 2 districts, so I think we're ready to go on that. And you will see later that we've had a little request for a change in the language, but I think we can agree to what OMSD has requested and then just approve it. Interagency agreements, next month we will have the updated Inland Regional Center one. And then it's my understanding that OMSD is working with California Children's Services to have an amendment so we're all covered with CCS services in the future too. This is really important because one of our districts has a comprehensive review coming up. And now the CD is requiring those interagency agreements have to be renewed annually. So we want to be compliant when the state comes May 15th through 19th. Staff development. The districts indicated CPI, in this order, intensive behavior training, alternative dispute resolution, autism and related topics, and IEP compliance were the trainings they wanted to have continue next year. So we have a plan and we have those on the calendar. Also, the work groups, indicators 5 and 6, which I shared with you as least restrictive environment. Indicator 7, we have coming up later this month, and I believe you have a flyer today too, a training for DRDP, which is the preschool assessment. So we're starting training the staff again on the assessment, and I have reached out to the California Preschool Instructional Network to come in and do some trainings on the foundations. Indicator 17, results-driven accountability. We also will have a work group and we'll bring in some nationally renowned experts in that area. What we know at this point, the governor's budget is due on May 12th, and we expect that there will probably be a COLA only for special ed. We're not anticipating that there will be additional funding. AB 312 seeks to equalize funding, no additional funding for SELPA. It would be equalizing the funding, and the funding would continue on the basis of our allocation plan. It also seeks to put funding into preschool because there has never been special ed funding for preschool. And so we all know that in the early intervention is the key to future success. This week, and I sent out to you, AB 312 was heard first step by the Assembly Education Committee, and it passed unanimously. So it will be moving on. And then today we have something a little unique that we haven't had before. Just as I was coming into the council meeting last month, I received via email some public comments, and I invited that person to come and share them at the meeting. She was unable to come, so I'm bringing them forward to you today. You have them in your packet, so you can read them, and we will record in the minutes that they were brought forward for your